This is Michael Woodward, and this is episode 82 of the Jumblethink podcast.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Jumblethink podcast, a podcast focused on telling the stories of dreamers, makers, innovators, and influencers. Along the way, we give you some tips and ideas of how you can chase your own big idea and dream and create the world you want to live in. On the podcast today, our guest is Jeremy Adams. More about Jeremy in a moment. On Thursday's episode, our guest is Eric Severson. He is a writer, speaker, adventurer, educator, and entrepreneur. Eric is a true adventurer in living the life of taking risks. In this episode, we talk about his hitchhiking trip from London to Central Africa, the importance of passion and meaning in life. We also talk about overcoming fear, the release of his new book called Ordinary to Extraordinary, coming out early next year, and the lessons you can learn from the people around you. It's a super power-packed episode you won't want to miss. So check out our episode with Eric Severson this Thursday. Do you have a big idea and dream and you don't know where to start? Well, I have an exciting announcement coming up about Jumblethink and our idea camps. I want to make sure that you hear about it first. So swing on over to jumblethink.com, click the Contact Us page, and scroll down to where you see newsletter. Drop us your email address, and we'll be in touch to give you this exciting announcement about our idea camps coming up soon. Now let's jump into today's episode with Jeremy Adams. I am so excited about today's guest. His name is Jeremy Adams, and just a really nice guy. At 22, he founded a company called Prestige Food Trucks, and now they're a multi-million-dollar business. Now, what does Prestige Food Trucks do? They build custom food trucks, you know, those taco trucks or grilled cheese sandwich trucks that you see around in your communities that have the killer food. They build those trucks to their customer specifications. Recently, him and a few other entrepreneurs started a new company called Unicorn Innovations. They are a digital marketing firm, and they're doing some really cool stuff to shake up the world of digital marketing. Jeremy's background goes so much deeper than just food trucks and digital marketing. He has a background in finance, sales, and hospitality. It's a super fun episode. So let's jump into our conversation today with Jeremy Adams. Jeremy, it's so great to have you on the podcast. Thanks for taking time out and sharing a little bit of your story.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Now, you have been an entrepreneur from very early in your life. Tell us a little bit about when you first got that entrepreneurial bug to really go out there and make things happen.
Yeah, looking back at it, I really started kind of becoming an entrepreneur in middle school, believe it or not. And I feel like most entrepreneurs, they figure it out kind of young and start doing some things that other kids aren't doing. But back then, I realized that I could make some money burning CDs. And I don't know if the music was necessarily downloaded legally or not, but I think I could burn a CD and sell it for $5, $10, something along those lines. So, selling a few CDs a week to people in middle school made me some extra cash. And this lady next door to me used to have me do lawn work, and she would pay me one rate. And then my little sister, I would subcontract it out to her. And my parents would get really mad, but I would just take the spread and have her do all the work. So, it's kind of funny, but I really started at a relatively young age and just, learned a little bit more and grew from there.
So, I heard this great story that you got into the food industry in, your late teens. And by the time you were 20, you already had $30,000 saved up. What was that like? And what was the motivator to really start building wealth and building kind of this sustainability to what you were doing?
Yeah, so at 16, I got a job at a breakfast restaurant, and I was a host for just a little bit because it was my first real job. And then at breakfast restaurants, you can actually wait tables when you're 16 because they don't serve alcohol. You have to be 18 to serve alcohol, but there's really no age for serving for places that don't serve alcohol, which is very rare because most places do serve alcohol, but there are a few that don't. So at 16, I started waiting tables, and that that age, I was able to start making pretty solid money. I think I was making $7 an hour as a host, which was like nothing, right? I mean, it's minimum wage, but
Yeah.
waiting tables in high school, I started making, $500, $600, $700 on busy weeks. And that's just like, I really started getting a taste of decent income, right? And I lived with my mom still, and I didn't have any bills. So essentially $500-$600 a week and free cash to do whatever I wanted really started getting me excited and motivated to make money.
That's really cool. Your background is in finance and sales and hospitality. And you talked about, being a waiter at such a young age. I'm curious, how is hospitality really important in how you can build your clientele? How you treat your clients and how you engage with them? What kind of success stories do you have there? What kind of trials have you had there? And what are some stories that we can maybe learn a little bit about how we treat our customers and what we can get out of that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So what I would say is, even if your career, if you are in the hospitality industry, if that's your passion and what you want to do with the rest of your life, great. But even if it's not, I believe everybody should make the most of what they're doing, even if they aren't in love with their current situation, just because you never know who you're going to meet or have the opportunity to work with or build a relationship with. And at a young age, I started building up some regular tables that would come in and ask for me. And you start, when your income is dependent on quality service and relationships, right? The breakfast place I worked at was mostly older people that came in, and older people, like, they really don't have a lot to do, I suppose. So they would come in a lot of times, multiple times a week, sometimes every day, and they just liked that person to talk to, and they would start tipping me more, and it became easier for me to make decent income because I knew that they would come in regularly, and it was really nice. And fast forward, and I actually don't share this story as much as I should probably, but the investor that ended up investing in my first business at 22, I actually met him while I was waiting tables at a Japanese place when I was 20.
That's crazy.
So I met him, just like joked around, like bought him and his wife shots. We had fun, and I started helping him out with projects, and then he ended up investing in my business. So it worked out pretty well.
And that business was the Prestige food trucks, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
I want to dive into that in a moment, but let's go a little bit deeper here. You build these relationships. You have this investor who at the time was just a customer buying food at the restaurant you worked at. As you were building these relationships, as you were finding these regulars, you said that it helped to bring more stability to the amount of revenue you were bringing in. I think so often it's easy as business owners that we get stuck in this place of we've always got to look for that next great, customer, and that sometimes along the way we forget about our customer right in front of us. Can you tell us maybe how that's impacted your business, being able to cultivate these long-term relationships and really go deep with people to help build what you're building?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my expertise in business today, and it's actually taken me many years to figure this out. My business coach has helped with me tremendously to figure out my genius. My expertise is actually not being an expert, but being a generalist and knowing how to properly source experts. So being that I rely on so many different people to partner with and work with to help scale business and scale opportunities, relationships are vital for me, because if we don't have good relationships, like, I lose my execution partner, right?
Yeah.
So, and even at a young age, like, the weird thing about me is I'm very selective on who I enter in a relationship with, because I put so much time and energy into relationships typically that a lot of people, when they meet me, they think I can be an asshole or think whatever, because for whatever reason, and it's a lot of gut and instinct, but I would say most people, I'm never like rude, but I won't go out of my way to just be like that super nice person that is just like when you meet those people, they're just like so friendly and just like, oh my God, that's great talent that they're just so friendly and likable to everyone. Like, that's not me. But like, if there's that person that I think I connect with and build a relationship with, I go all in. And that's helped me in so many ways to just build those relationships. And someone once told me all you really need is 5 quality relationships to, scale a business and scale a big network. And, I have some relationships now that are connected with hundreds of people, and they do kind of a lot of my networking and deal flow for me, which is pretty cool.
I'm a big fan of the whole StrengthsFinder mentality, which says, focus on your strengths and then build a team around you that are your weaknesses. It sounds like you've kind of taken that at a different level of going, hey, I kind of know a little bit about all of these things. I know the nuts and bolts of making things work, but for me to succeed, it sounds like your strength is really building a team that empowers you to cast vision and create something that's awesome.
Exactly. And 1 + 1 = 3, basically. I like to find already successful people, typically. I like to partner with rock stars, people that, and there are times and places to mentor people and bring people up and teach them, but it makes things a lot easier if you partner with people that already really know what they're doing, and you say, hey, you're already doing well, and you're already doing well, but if we all work together, we can all do even better, right? Than each person working by themselves. And that's really what I'm focusing on dialing in and crafting as my true genius and expertise, if you will.
That's really cool. We mentioned prestige food trucks. At 22, you go from working in restaurants to launching your own food empire, if you will. Tell us about prestige food trucks, how it started and what it does.
Yeah, so at 22, believe it or not, so I met the gentleman that ended up investing in my business when I was 20.
Wow.
And he was like a local investor guy, and he was in a bunch of different businesses, and he kind of hired me as his assistant. It was almost like a project manager, though. I didn't like get coffee for him. I was just like helping him out with all this business stuff, and I learned a lot about business really, really quick. I didn't finish college. I didn't even finish my 2-year degree. I took some classes part-time, but I just got out of that, I think, right around when I was 20, right around when it started. And that was essentially like my hands-on college education. So we like started a few businesses together. I dabbled in like some real estate stuff, some private lending stuff, some sports complex, some private, like a lot of different things. And by the time I was 22, we ended up starting a business that specialized in manufacturing custom food trucks. And the first client that we had was local, right in Central Florida. And we didn't even really know what we had as a business, but it takes 2 or 3 months to build a truck, a custom truck. It's like a little house. So there's a good amount of time that goes into these things. And, while that truck was being built, I thought it was a good idea. We might as well see if there's other people interested. So we got up a website that the domain prestigefoodtrucks.com was open. I thought that was a great name, and I couldn't believe it was open. So I bought it, and we built just like a little brand. I had some basic digital marketing knowledge, so was able to do some just basic SEO stuff with a friend of mine. And before that first truck was completed, we got like some sporadic orders for some rebuilds and remodels and stuff, nothing huge, but then we actually did get a second truck order before that first one was done, and the business just kind of grew from there, a truck at a time, and then, maybe 2 trucks in a month. And, in our first year, we did over $1 million in revenue, and we did, over $3 million the second year. So we grew pretty quick.
That's really, really cool. So you're actually producing these food trucks that other people come in and purchase for their own food trucks, it sounds like.
Yep. Right now, so back then we specialized in working with mostly mom and pops, just because that's where I didn't really know anything either, and I didn't even know there was a market for working with larger companies. But we really specialized in working with first-time business owners and people that were just chefs that were tired of their job and wanted to start a truck. So they're like lower-end trucks, budget-friendly. Over the years, we've transitioned to now we still love working with mom and pops, and we love to build trucks for them, and because of us constantly focusing on our quality, we've really transitioned our model into working with lots of corporations. We've worked with tons of big restaurants, the U.S. military, Salvation Army. I mean, just tons of big brands, and that's really where our focus has been catering to companies like that.
That's really, really cool. How many trucks have you built?
I don't know the exact number, but I mean, to date, it's a few hundred or so, I think.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really, really cool. You never think about that end of it. You think about, oh, these people that are starting really cool, is their taco truck or their grilled cheese sandwich truck or whatever. And you never think about who makes the truck itself. So that's really cool.
Yeah, there's a few of us out there. So there's a bunch of like garage builders, like they're just small. I mean, we have a 30,000 square foot facility. We have an actual team. We have, I think, a 25-person team now. We're properly insured and all that stuff. I mean, there's only a handful of companies like us in the country that are actually like actual companies, if that makes sense, not just like a couple guys working out of a garage.
I want to kind of pivot here because one of the things that you're really passionate about is building a network of influencers. I mean, we've heard it already in your story about how, you build these teams and these teams help support the vision. How can we as business owners or people that have an idea really dive into starting to create influence in our own sphere?
I haven't focused that much on intentionally building influence for myself. What I've done is focus on building trust with already existing influencers. So guys that have wealth, that have lots of business success, that have lots of connections, that have fame in some cases, and I go to them and say, I know you're busy, I know you're working on a lot, how can I add value to you? And in many cases, like, I'll build trust by working for free or whatever it takes, and then ultimately, if you help them out enough and you build enough trust, there's going to be opportunity for the relationship to go a little bit deeper. So, for me, it's just about adding value and building trust, and then the money and the opportunity will come after that.
So basically, you're giving to get in a lot of ways. You're investing something, and there may or may not be return, but you're willing to make that investment to start building that relationship.
Correct. And sometimes these investments, I mean, depending on the person, and myself included, it takes a while to truly build trust with me. And I imagine if you've done lots of business and you've had some successes, but you've probably had tons of failures, you've been screwed over a bunch. I mean, sometimes it takes months to truly build trust. So you just have to be prepared to spend months if that's what it takes. But typically, if you're focused on the right person, a few months of your time and energy can be well worth it.
Well, you talked about networking with other influencers. How do you start the process of figuring out who those right people are? Whether it's finding the right mentor or finding the right network to grow your pool of business in. How do you start vetting the people that you want to go after? Because that takes time to start building that trust. And you want to make sure you're investing in the right places and that you're finding the right people. So what's your process for kind of going through that process?
Well, at first, when I was 20, the gentleman that I mentioned that I partnered up with and was kind of his assistant, my whole mission there was he just had financial success, right? And I came from a relatively low income family, like grew up in a trailer in a small like country town, like, so anybody drove like a BMW, I thought he was pretty cool. Like that, all I did was see that, and I thought to myself, I can just hang out with this guy, learn from this guy, I'll be able to be like that one day. And I didn't really look much more into it other than that. And as I've evolved, I'm more knowledgeable and selective about who, and intentional, I suppose, about who I want to partner with. But it really just depends on, whatever challenge I'm having in my business or my life currently. I try to read a book or find a mentor or a partner that can help me with that. So if it's, we're in with some businesses right now, we're looking to raise outside capital. So, I've been fortunate to just have some good partners that could fund it, and then, some self-funding and stuff as I've built businesses. But some of the opportunities now we're getting that are really big, and I'm having to go find outside capital. And I've really never had to do that, so it's kind of uncomfortable for me. But I'm going to all the places and all the meetings where these guys hang out. And, I actually just really became friends with one of them lately. He's a really, really good guy, and I'm actually really looking forward to building that friendship. And, that really started because I just knew what I needed and what my business needed, and I seeked it. And then just, a lot of times, especially for younger entrepreneurs, and it's taken me a long time to realize this, but we, and I'm 27 now, we bring older guys equal value to they bring us. So
Yeah.
he obviously has more capital resources and more experience. I have more energy. I'm willing to do more actual work. I have newer ideas. I have a network of young hustlers that guys like that look for to invest money in. So something that's helped me really take my networking and partnership game to the next level is just not being arrogant about it, but being confident that although this gentleman or this woman can really help me, I bring equal value to the table. And that's how you go into the relationships. And that's really what they're looking for too. They're not looking for a leech that's just going to suck their time. They're looking for value to go that way. And that's how you can really just build that great relationship.
One of the relationships you have that's a lot of fun was one of the early Shark Tank sharks, Kevin Harrington. Tell us a little bit about that and what you guys have worked on together, and maybe some lessons you've learned from working with somebody who has had such massive success.
Yeah, so Kevin, I actually met a few years back. My food truck manufacturing company, we got entered into a contest for best new business in Central Florida, and there were over 500 applicants. And then we got selected. We, as my company Prestige, got selected to be in the final five. And the final five had to go in front of, I think it was like 500 or 750 people or something like that, and pitch our business. And Kevin was one of the guest judges. And out of the final five, they would pick the best business, and that business would get $100,000 in cash and prizes. And we ended up winning, so it was really cool. And Kevin was a really big fan of my business and what I had done. I think at the time I was like 24, 25, I think something like that. And, just the amount of success we've had at just such a short time of business and my age, we just really connected then. And we didn't start working together for a while, but at that time that had built credibility for me in a way. But also I just would reach out to him and say, hey, like, he lived in St. Pete, which is where I live now. I lived in Orlando. It was about a 2-hour drive. Like, if he was free for lunch, I drove to him. Like, what are you working on? How can I help you? Would love to grab lunch whenever you're free. I'll make it convenient for you. And just started like reaching out and showing him that I'm there and that I'm happy to help where I can. And then just the business relationship grew from there, and we ended up starting a digital agency together, which was pretty cool because you can imagine, Kevin's a very connected guy. The Shark Tank connection's huge. A lot of people want to work with him. So I had a team that could fulfill the digital services. Kevin brought in a lot of the deals, and we grew to a multi-million-dollar business relatively quickly.
That's crazy. You talked about, you've had these different successes throughout your career. You started out in very humble situations. How's your perspective on money and success maybe shifted from your early days to how you view things now?
That's a very good question. So, like, I used to think money was the holy grail, right? And I've shifted my mind to money is a necessity, but it's not everything. Like, a lot of people, it's like cliche, money's not everything. It can't buy happiness, blah, blah, blah. I think it's definitely a required tool to ultimately be happy. There may be a small percentage of people that disagree with that, but I don't know too many I mean, I know if you have wealth, it's a lot easier to find something you're passionate about and ultimately become happy. So now I view money as just an object to ultimately do what I'm passionate about. And I'm still very money focused, but I mean, I remember a few years ago, I had one of my biggest months at Prestige, and it was, we took out a solid distribution. It was the biggest distribution we ever had, for like partners. And that was probably like the most miserable month of my life, because then I just realized like all this stress and everything I was going through, like it was just money I was getting out of it. And I had no quality of life, and just, you name it, what was going on. We were dealing with legal headaches and just internal headaches. And it was just a really lot to deal with just for some paper to just make me feel better about myself, essentially. So really balancing like what you're passionate about. And I don't really get I think it's cool to be able to start a business that can impact and help a lot of people. So with that comes money, right? And as I recently decided that my businesses moving forward are going to actually be they're for-profit businesses, but they're going to have a purpose attached to them. So all my businesses moving forward, I'm going to find a cause that I'm passionate about, or my partners are passionate about, and we're going to start making a difference with our for-profit businesses. And little things like that. There's money isn't everything, but you start adding different components to add that balance and create more to life than the actual physical money itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's the whole philanthropic edge of success, I think. So often, you got these two camps: people that have success and they hoard and they become miserable and treat people poorly, and they just grow wealth, but they don't have value. And then you have the flip side, which is people understand that wealth does bring a quality of life because of the things you can do and that kind of thing, but it's not everything. So they want to give back and make a difference in their community or through a movement of some sort.
Absolutely. And from my experience in giving back, and my business coach actually just tells me not to say back. He says giving, because he's like, you don't have to feel like you have to give back. You should just be willing to give, not for the purpose of giving back, but just to give.
That's
and
good.
When it's just yourself, and I'm not married yet, so I imagine at some point that my mindset will shift slightly. But up to this point, I've worked 100% for myself, and by no means am I like at the pinnacle or like extremely financially successful. I don't have a private jet or anything yet. I will, but you do get to a point where it's just like, okay, I'm only working for myself, right? And in my business partners and stuff too. So myself and my business partners, having purpose attached to it, you start working for something that's bigger than you and your buddies that want to start a business together.
Yeah.
And that actually motivates you to do bigger and greater things. And ultimately you can, accumulate more wealth, because I'm just way more excited to make money knowing that I'm actually helping someone or a cause.
Yeah. And I think there's this whole weird philosophy where a lot of people view it and say, oh, you can live with purpose and you can live with passion, but you usually have to sacrifice wealth or with success for those things. So either, you're the person that's serving at a food kitchen or some charity, and you're giving a lot, but you're sacrificing. Or you can be that business person who's creating wealth and creating systems and structures, and there's been for a long time this divide between the two. And I love that there's so many young entrepreneurs and people also that are in the generations ahead of us, the Bill Gates and Melinda Gates Foundation and what they're doing, that are seeing the bigger picture and saying it's not just about us. It's not just about what we can build for ourselves, but it's what we can build to bring influence and change for those who can't do it on their own.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And one final and added thought to that, something that's really just I've come to realization lately is, finding that purpose, like we were kind of talking about, the philanthropic level,
Yeah.
but also if you're building a company, you're giving opportunities to people to have good jobs with you. So it's actually that's another giant service you're doing as an entrepreneur. You're giving management positions and internships and stuff to people that without you taking the risk and dealing with all the headaches and growing a business and the 100 times that you want to quit or it's just not worth it. Like after you get through all that, you actually are creating opportunity for people that are going to use that opportunity to do good and to start a family one day or support their existing family or whatever the case. So, and that's something that I actually forget a lot that, I keep reminding myself as of late that it's, entrepreneurs create opportunity in many ways. So it's really important to remember that.
It's really good. And I think that so often you had the Wall Street protest, you have all these different things, and there is a lot of greed and there's a lot of bad things, but it's really dangerous to villainize an entire group of people because their jobs revolve around money. There are a lot of people out there, whether they're starting a business, whether they're running a big business with lots of employees, or whether they're working on Wall Street. Not everyone's a villain, and there are a lot of people that see people in need, that are making a difference, that are seeing the bigger picture beyond just themselves. And it's easy to villainize the 1%, but there are a lot of great people in the 1% who are making a difference in their communities and in the globe.
For sure. And I don't know the exact stat, but maybe you can Google it real quick. I think it's something like 80% of millionaires in the US today are self-made.
Yeah.
So something like that. Have you heard that before?
Oh, yeah. I've heard it's super high.
So yeah, so a very large percentage are self-made. And to become a self-made millionaire, multimillionaire, whatever, like you have to go through a lot of hurdles along the way. And I think when you get to that point, I haven't met too many. I mean, you meet them occasionally. They're just like full of themselves. But most financially successful people that have built wealth themselves and just started from not being a millionaire and built it for them and their families, like they're some of the nicest, most passionate, like generous people you'll ever meet. Because you just, after getting your ass kicked and success, failure, lawsuit, getting screwed over by a partner, like, making some money, going broke, all that, most of the experiences that these people have, you realize that like the market is much bigger and the world out there is much bigger than you. And I mean, I don't know if you agree with that as well, but there's not that many people that I'm meeting that I feel like are bad, selfish people. I think the media does a pretty good job of making them seem like villains. And there are some out there for sure, but I don't think it's a large percentage.
Well, and there's a difference between certainty and arrogance. There's a difference between knowing what you know and being steadfast on that and making decisions on what works, and being arrogant and thinking you're the end all be all.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's a balance too, right? Is
Yeah.
the difference between confidence and arrogance and stuff. And I think right now I was way more arrogant when I was 22 because I just hadn't had my ass kicked in business. So I thought we started doing a little bit of revenue and I thought I was a genius. I'm like, oh my God, this business world's so easy. I'm going to make so much money. Like, oh, I'm amazing. And you get sued a bunch, you lose a bunch of money, and you just, okay, I'm smart, but I'm not nearly as smart as I thought I was, and this isn't as easy as I thought it was. So yeah, it's crazy.
Now, you are slightly younger than me, about 10 years younger. I'm in that generation between Gen X and Millennial. I really don't have a generation right in that pocket. You are a Millennial. Tell us maybe some suggestions you would give to Millennials right now who are listening, who might be discontent with working for somebody, or maybe they're trying to find purpose. What would you recommend to them as a person that's created your own path, as a person who's found your own purpose and success? What are some tips you would give them?
So what I would recommend to millennials, and I would say basically anybody who's just in a situation where they're not happy with, but millennials in particular, because many of them are younger, like worst case scenario isn't that bad. So a lot of people that I talk to, even friends that I went to high school with, they're afraid to take the leap because what if this happens? What if this happens? I'm like, yeah, what if it does happen? Is that really that bad, right? If you, obviously a good chunk of millennials do have kids, but I know, a lot of people that they don't have kids. They don't have anybody that relies on them except themselves. Like, really, what is the worst case scenario? Your business fails and you have to live with your mom or your grandma for a few months so you get on the feet. Like, that's a pretty good worst case scenario in my mind, to like change your life and find something you're passionate about and possibly and never have the financial headaches you're having, right? Like, and just being happy. So, and really, I would say just look at what's holding you back. Is the worst case scenario that bad? No, probably not. Suck up, like get rid of your ego and your pride, because that means nothing in the business world. If I don't want to have to ask my mom, I mean, I'm sure if you said, Mom, this is what I want to do, I'm passionate about it. If worst case, would you be okay if I sleep on the couch? I mean, whatever. Just lose your pride and your ego, because like ultimately what you want, if it's truly what you want, is much bigger than that.
That's really good. That's good advice. Before we jump into some rapid fire questions, tell us a little bit about Unicorn Innovations. It's a newer company that you've started with some partners and friends. Tell us about what you're doing and how you're kind of shaking up the market.
Yeah, so Unicorn Innovations, we're a new company, partnered with some really, really, really smart guys, and we're high level digital consulting essentially, and we work typically on a pay per performance basis. So we've partnered with many large companies, most of which we have to sign NDAs. I mean, they're pretty big time deals. We're very fortunate to have some good opportunity flow coming in, and we take all the financial risk and we help scale their business. So
that's cool.
Our ideal customer, if I walk into a room of 100 people, maybe one person would be a fit. It has to be a large company that has cash that can pay us for the customer acquisitions really quick after we acquire them, that know the lifetime value of their customer, and they'll pay up front for the lifetime value, not just off the short-term transaction, that have the ability to fulfill the product or service on the back end on a national or international level. So, partnering with big cash-heavy companies are the ones that we can truly help. But we're doing some really exciting things, and it's really cool because that's where I see the market going. I mean, any corporation we talk to, for the most part, very large companies, and many of them multi-billion-dollar companies and multi-hundred-million-dollar companies, typically at the very least.
Yeah,
like they all like the idea of them taking no financial risk if we can bring them the customer.
Yeah.
The thing that we have the hardest time negotiating is, okay, what are we going to pay you when you acquire the customer? And that number has to make business sense for us to invest in the media to acquire the customer. But assuming those numbers make sense, it's a really exciting opportunity, and there's a few other people in this space that we know that are really spearheading this model, but we're very confident this is where the industry is heading, and we're really excited to just keep growing and getting more opportunities.
That's really, really cool. What is one lesson that somebody on the smaller scale who might not be able to engage a company like yours, that they might be able to take from what you do and apply it to their own to help start acquiring customers at a more rapid pace?
So I heard a quote once years ago that said, the company that invests most in customer acquisition always wins.
Okay.
So, just being willing to invest in customer acquisition. With that being said, the business obviously has to make business sense. So you have to have a large lifetime value of the customer. And, if you're a business that's on a monthly continuity model or something where you can make money after that first purchase, that's great. But just spending money to invest in customers and acquire customers rather is so key. And just, I think a lot of people, myself included, like still to this day, it's tough for me, but I'm really shifting my mindset. People can get somewhat complacent and almost spoiled that, okay, I've gotten up to this point without having to spend much on marketing. Like, I can just keep growing at this rate because that's how business works. Like, I have good word of mouth. I spend, $5,000 a month on Google. Like, we'll just keep growing. Like, no, you gotta, like, to really grow the business, you have to be mentally prepared to put that metaphorical, paid media pedal to the floor and just invest in acquiring customers and whatever that takes. I mean, not paying yourself, not making a lot of profits on the front end, but not willing to invest in customer acquisition is really just going to limit your long-term business growth.
Now, you have a lot of things going on. You've got prestige food trucks. You've got unicorn innovations. If somebody wants to find or connect with you, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm really just starting to build, I suppose we can call it a personal brand. I think that term's so like all over the internet with just people that I would like never take advice from. But I'm really just starting that. And the reason I am starting that is one of my mentors helped change my mindset, because myself and my partners, we really don't care for having a bunch of spotlight and attention on us, because it's not what drives us. We're close to the people that we want to work with and stuff like that, and that's what's important. But one of my mentors shared that you're actually, doing the world like an in-service or not doing the world justice, or a disservice, by not sharing your message. Just because you've had so much experience, you can really help out a lot of people. You can help out a lot of millennials, first-time business owners. So, coming from the place of just really connecting and helping with people, I've been a little bit more motivated to build a personal brand. So starting in 2018, I will start doing more of that. But as of right now, the best place to contact me would probably be my email, Jeremy, Jeremy, at unicorninnovations.com.
Very cool. Let's dive into our rapid fire questions as we wrap up this episode. The first question I have for you is, what is one tip you would give someone with a big idea or dream and they simply don't know where to start?
Big idea, big dream, don't know where to start. Just find somebody that has done something similar and do everything you can to build a relationship with them so they can help you with that idea or dream.
What is one change you'd like to see in the world around you?
One change I'd like to see is more business owners focusing on attaching a purpose to their business. Just because I really do think that, most products and services are apples to apples. Like, you get a massage, you buy paper towels, whatever. It's all kind of the same stuff. Most products and services, even cars now, like a Hyundai or Toyota, it's just brand loyalty. But if you had a great cause attached to it, I think, assuming most products are apples to apples, the consumers are going to start choosing the products or services that are attached to really good causes. So I think it's going to be better for their business from a capitalistic standpoint, and be better for the world. So I really do think that that's the direction we're heading, and I want to see more change sooner than later in that department.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, you are early in your entrepreneurial journey. You've got lots and lots and lots of years to create and do things that are awesome. At the end of your days, what do you want your legacy to be?
That's a really good question. I don't know if I've actually ever answered a legacy question.
Okay.
Maybe to the public anyway, maybe to myself in my head. I watched the Warren Buffett documentary on HBO recently, HBO Go, and he talked about he was able to make billions, and his wife was able to basically give it all away. Like, the person that he loved unconditionally and basically dedicated his life to was his wife, and he made as much money, as more money than almost anybody in world history, and she gave it all away. And I want to be able to make a lot, just because I know I have the ability and the talent to do so, but I want to be able to give a lot too, because I don't think that it would be right. Like, I'm I'm not really religious or anything, but I do believe in, people are given gifts and you're on this world for a reason. And, I know I'm here to be able to subdue some big things. And if I can do big things and creating wealth for myself and my family, but ultimately creating opportunity and helping others on a huge scale, that would be, a great life.
That's really, really cool. Who or what inspires you?
I'm really just inspired by doing things that I love to do. So, and ultimately what I love to do and having ultimate freedom. So being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. If that's sleep in till noon, that's sleeping in till noon. If that's going to a sporting event, flying to London, whatever. I'm ultimately motivated by freedom, and everything else revolves around that.
What are you currently reading, watching, or listening to?
So I read a lot of audiobooks. Listen. People always correct me when I say read, but I don't care. I've probably listened to about 60 in the last 2 years. So
Okay.
Pretty good amount. One of my favorites, and it's a classic, but I do listen to it regularly, and that's 4 Hour Work Week.
Yeah.
Not because I'm necessarily motivated to have a 4 Hour Work Week, but it's just a mindset of constantly delegating and leveraging resources. And in regards to watching, I've really been Patrick Bet-David. I think he has his YouTube channel, Valuetainment. I kind of go back and forth between who I'll follow, like influencer wise, but lately I've been watching a lot of his videos, and they're really on point and really solid and not a lot of fluff. So Patrick Bet-David's content's really, really good.
I end every episode with this final question. What is one dream you're still wanting to fulfill in your own life?
My one dream is to own at least one of my favorite sports teams. So
cool.
I'm a big Atlanta Braves fan. I'm a big Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, Orlando Magic, and now Orlando City Soccer MLS team. And I want to own at least one, if not multiple, of my favorite sports franchises at one point. I think that would be amazing, and I'd love to just invite my friends and play GM and like trade players and stuff like that.
Well, Jeremy, it has been a lot of fun. Thanks for taking time out to share your story and giving us some wisdom along the way.
Really appreciate having me on. Thanks so much.
Once again, I want to thank today's guest, Jeremy Adams, for taking time out to share a little bit about his entrepreneurial journey. It's been a lot of fun chatting with him, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. On Thursday's episode, our guest is Eric Severson. He's a writer, speaker, adventurer, educator, and entrepreneur. His stories are absolutely incredible, and it's going to be a really fun episode. So you're going to want to make sure to check out that episode on this Thursday. We are so excited about our first virtual idea camp coming up soon, and we want to make sure that you know about it, when it's coming up, and all the details. What you need to do is go over to jumblethink.com, click the contact button, and on the contact page, you'll see a place to sign up for the newsletter. So head on over to jumblethink.com, sign up for the newsletter, and you'll know about our exciting idea camp, the virtual idea camp, coming up soon. Thanks again for tuning in. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. It's been a lot of fun for me, and I want to encourage you. I believe you were created for a purpose, a destiny, and you have so much potential. Go chase that big idea and dream. Go create something awesome and change the world around you.
Légèrement espacées. Étirez-vous doucement, mais complètement. En avant, en arrière, sur les côtés. Vous êtes une autre personne. Les mères de famille, les enfants, peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant. Dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps, vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.